The Discovery captain Marcus Steele stood at the bridge of the exploration vessel Nighthawk, staring at the massive derelict ship floating in the void. The ancient vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of any human ship ever built. Its dark hull seemed to absorb light, making it appear like a wound in space itself. "Scanners are picking up some strange readings, Captain," reported Lieutenant Jamie Torres from her station. "The ship's been here for at least 3,000 years, but there's still power flowing through it." Marcus frowned. Humanity had been exploring space for only 2 centuries. Finding human technology this old was impossible, yet their scanners clearly showed human energy signatures coming from the derelict. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Chief Engineer Dylan Brooks. "The ship's architecture matches human design patterns, but it's using technology we've never seen before. Some of these systems are beyond our current understanding." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Victoria Crane, the ship's archaeologist, pushed her glasses up nervously. "If this is truly human, it means our ancestors were far more advanced than we believed. But how could we have lost such technology?" Marcus made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. We're going aboard." 3 hours later, Marcus led a small team through the derelict's corridors. Emergency lighting flickered to life as they walked, responding to their presence. The ship's interior was pristine, as if it had been waiting for their arrival. They found the bridge at the ship's heart. Ancient but familiar control panels lined the walls, and at the center sat a captain's chair facing a massive view screen. As Marcus approached, the screen activated, displaying a holographic figure. "Welcome, descendants," the figure said in perfect English. "I am Captain Helena Voss, commander of the Terran defense ship Eternal Guardian. If you are seeing this message, then humanity faces its greatest threat, and it is time for the truth to be revealed." Marcus stepped forward, his heart pounding. "What truth?" The hologram's expression grew grave. 3 millennia ago, humanity fought a war that nearly destroyed us. We faced an enemy so powerful that we had to make an impossible choice. We developed technology that could save our species, but at a terrible cost. The war ended, but we knew the enemy would return. This ship and others like it were built to wait, to watch, and to protect humanity when that day came. "What enemy?" Dr. Crane asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The Zephyrian Collective," Helena replied. "They rule half the galaxy through fear and superior technology. They see humans as a threat to their dominance and will stop at nothing to eliminate us." The ship's sensors suddenly screamed warnings. Lieutenant Torres's voice echoed through the comm system. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching. Unknown ships, at least 50 of them." Helena's hologram smiled grimly. "They have found you. The collective has returned to finish what they started, but you are not defenseless. The Eternal Guardian has been waiting for this moment. Captain Steele, will you accept command of humanity's most powerful weapon?" Marcus looked at his crew, seeing fear and determination in their eyes. The weight of his species' survival rested on his shoulders. "What do I need to do?" "Place your hand on the command console and accept the responsibility of defending humanity," Helena said. "But know this, once you activate the Guardian Protocol, there is no turning back. You will become part of something greater than yourself." Without hesitation, Marcus placed his hand on the console. The ship around them came alive with power, and he felt something change within him. Knowledge flowed into his mind, understanding of technology beyond current human comprehension. The view screen showed the approaching Zephyrian fleet, their ships massive and menacing. But Marcus no longer felt afraid. The Eternal Guardian was awakening, and with it, humanity's true strength. "Let them come," he said quietly. "It's time they learned what humans are truly capable of." Part 2. The enemy revealed High Commander Zixthor, stood on the bridge of the collective flagship Dominion's fist, his forearms crossed in satisfaction. The insectoid alien's compound eyes gleamed as he watched the primitive human ships scatter before his massive fleet. This would be easier than he had anticipated. Report on the human vessels, he clicked in the collective's harsh language. 12 ships, mostly exploration and cargo vessels, replied his tactical officer. Their technology is primitive, barely. Space-worthy. They pose no threat to our forces. Zixthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. 3,000 years ago, the humans had been different. They had fought with desperate courage and impossible determination. But that was before the collective had broken their spirit and scattered them across the galaxy's edge. Now they were weak, soft, and ready for extermination. Open communications with the human vessels, he commanded. Let them hear their doom. The transmission crackled to life, and Zixthor's terrifying visage appeared on every human ship's view screen. Primitive humans, you have trespassed in collective space. Your species has grown too numerous and too bold. Today, your expansion ends. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift. Captain Steele's voice responded from the Nighthawk. This is Captain Marcus Steele of the Terran Exploration Fleet. We're not looking for trouble. We're just explorers. Explorers? Zixthor laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your ancestors claimed the same thing before they tried to resist our rightful dominion. But you are weaker than they were. You have forgotten the lessons of the Great War. What Great War? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. The war where we taught humanity its place in the galaxy, Zixthor replied. The war where we destroyed your greatest ships and sent your survivors fleeing to the galaxy's edge like frightened children. You are nothing but the remnants of a defeated species. Through the bridge windows of the Eternal Guardian, Marcus watched the enemy fleet approach. The knowledge flowing through his mind from the ancient ship told him everything about the Zephyrian collective. They were conquerors who had enslaved dozens of species across the galaxy. They viewed themselves as the rightful rulers of all spacefaring races. You're wrong about one thing, Marcus said calmly. We didn't flee, we prepared. Zixthor's eyes narrowed. Prepared? With what? Your ships are toys compared to our battle cruisers. Not these ships, Marcus replied. The ones you're about to meet. The space around the human fleet began to shimmer, and suddenly the Eternal Guardian materialized in full view. The massive ship dwarfed everything around it, its hull gleaming with power that made space itself bend around it. Zixthor stepped back in shock. Impossible. We destroyed all the ancient human ships. You destroyed the ones you could find, Marcus said. But humanity learned from that war. We built ships that could hide in folded space, waiting for the day you would return. Today is that day. More ships began appearing around the Guardian, each one massive and radiating power that made the collective's advanced sensors scream warnings. The human fleet had grown from 12 ships to 50, and each new vessel was more advanced than anything in the collective's fleet. This is impossible, Zixthor whispered. Your species is primitive. You don't have this technology. We've had 3,000 years to prepare, Marcus replied. 3,000 years to build, to plan, and to wait for your return. Did you really think we would remain weak forever? The Eternal Guardian began to glow with internal light, and energy readings that shouldn't have been possible flooded the collective's senses. Other ancient human ships powered up their weapon systems, creating a light show that turned the darkness of space into something beautiful and terrible. Doctor Crane stood beside Marcus on the Guardian's bridge, watching the enemy fleet with scientific fascination. The collective ships are massive, but they're using brute force technology. Our ships are elegant, efficient, and far more advanced. Numbers, Lieutenant Torres reported. The collective fleet has 200 ships to our 50. Then it's a fair fight, Marcus said with a smile. The ancient knowledge in his mind told him exactly what the Guardian-class ships were capable of. The collective was about to learn why humanity had spent 3 millennia in hiding. Zixthor's voice crackled through the comm system, no longer confident. This changes nothing. We are still the masters of this galaxy. You are still primitives, who belong under our rule. Then come and prove it, Marcus challenged. Let's finish what you started 3,000 years ago. Part 3, the first strike. The battle began with devastating precision. The collective fleet, confident in their numerical superiority, charged forward in their traditional formation. High, Commander Zixthor had fought hundreds of battles, using the same tactics that had conquered half the galaxy. All ships, prepare to engage, he commanded. Show these primitives the power of the collective. The first wave of collective ships opened fire with their plasma cannons, weapons that could melt through the strongest known materials. The beams struck the Eternal Guardian directly, and Zixthor waited for the satisfying explosion that would signal the end of human resistance. Instead, the plasma beams simply vanished, absorbed by the Guardian's hull, as if they were nothing more than gentle rain. Impossible, Zixthor breathed. Our weapons are the most powerful in the galaxy. Were, Marcus corrected through the comm system. 3,000 years ago, they were impressive. Today, they're antiques. The Eternal Guardian responded with a single shot from its main weapon. The beam of pure energy struck the lead collective ship and simply erased it from existence. Not destroyed, not exploded, but completely removed from reality as if it had never been built. What was that weapon? Zixthor demanded, his forearms trembling with shock. Reality manipulation technology, Dr. Crane explained, her voice carried, across all frequencies. We learned to bend space and time itself. Your ship didn't just die, it never existed in the first place. The ancient human fleet began their counterattack with surgical precision. Each ship moved with impossible grace, their hulls shifting and flowing like liquid metal. They weren't just using advanced technology, they had become something beyond the collective's understanding. Commander Riker Stone, captain of the Void Dancer, engaged 6 collective ships simultaneously. His vessel moved through space like a living thing, dodging every shot while its weapons carved through enemy hulls with beams of concentrated starlight. Their ships are alive, one of the collective officers reported in panic. They're adapting to our weapons in real time. Zixthor watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. The human ships fought with a coordination that was impossible to achieve. They moved as one entity, each ship knowing exactly what the others would do. How are they communicating so perfectly? He demanded. They're not communicating, his science officer replied, his voice filled with dread. They're sharing consciousness. The human ships are all connected to a single mind. Marcus felt the truth of those words. The Guardian Protocol hadn't just given him command of the ship, it had connected him to every captain, every crew member, every system in the ancient fleet. He was no longer just Marcus Steele. He was the combined will of humanity's greatest warriors. Captain Luna Reeves of the Star Phantom disabled 12 enemy ships with a weapon that reversed time around their targets. The collective vessels found themselves moving backward through space, their weapons firing into empty void, while their hulls aged thousands of years in seconds. "This is madness," Zixthor screamed. "Physics doesn't work this way." "It does when you understand the deeper laws of reality," Marcus replied. "Your collective conquered the galaxy using brute force and superior numbers, but humanity learned to think differently. We learned to use the universe itself as our weapon." The battle became a massacre. The collective's advanced technology, which had dominated the galaxy for millennia, proved useless against ships that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Human vessels phased through enemy fire, struck from impossible angles, and used weapons that defied every known law of physics. Chief Engineer Brooks monitored the battle from the Guardian's engineering deck. "Captain, the enemy is trying to retreat. Should we let them go?" Marcus considered the question. The ancient knowledge in his mind showed him the truth about the collective. They were not just conquerors. They were parasites who had destroyed hundreds of peaceful civilizations. Every species that had ever faced them had been given the same choice: submit or die. "No," he said finally. "They came here to commit genocide. They don't get to leave and try again somewhere else." The human fleet moved to surround the retreating collective ships. But instead of destroying them, they did something far more merciful and terrifying. They removed the collective's ability to wage war forever. The Eternal Guardian fired a beam of silver light that washed over the entire enemy fleet. When the light faded, the collective ships were still intact, but they were no longer weapons of war. Their hulls had been transformed into something that could only sustain life, never take it. "What have you done to us?" Zixthor demanded. "We've given you what you gave to so many others," Marcus replied. "A choice. Learn to live in peace, or die as the warlike species you've always been. Your ships can no longer fire weapons. Your technology can no longer harm other living beings. You are no longer conquerors." The collective fleet drifted in space, powerless and harmless. The war that had begun 3,000 years ago was finally over, but the galaxy would never be the same again. Part 4. The revelation news of the collective's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species looked up at the stars with something they had forgotten: hope. In the council chambers of the Galactic Alliance, representatives from dozens of species gathered in emergency session. The Alliance had been informed centuries ago as a mutual defense pact against the collective, but they had never dared to directly challenge the galaxy's most powerful empire. Ambassador Kethari, a reptilian diplomat whose species had barely survived collective occupation, stood before the assembly with trembling hands. "Fellow delegates, we have received confirmation. The Zephyrian Collective's Grand Fleet has been neutralized by human forces." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The Vorthan delegate, a being of pure energy, spoke first. "Impossible. The humans are barely spaceworthy. We've monitored their development for 2 centuries. They lack the technology to challenge even a single collective ship." "That's what we all believed," Kethari replied. "But intelligence reports suggest we were wrong about humanity's true capabilities. The ships that defeated the collective used technology beyond our understanding." On Earth, President Catherine Vale sat in her office, staring at the reports flooding in from the outer colonies. The transformation of the human fleet had been kept secret from civilian populations, but now the truth was spreading like wildfire. "Madam President," her aide entered the room, "we're receiving communication requests from over 50 alien governments. They all want to know the same thing. How long has humanity possessed this technology?" President Vale rubbed her temples. The ancient records discovered alongside the Eternal Guardian had revealed the truth about humanity's past. 3,000 years ago, humans had been part of a galactic community, but the collective had forced them to choose between extinction and exile. They had chosen exile and preparation. "Tell them the truth," she decided. "Humanity has been preparing for this day for 3,000 years. We've been waiting for the right moment to return to galactic civilization." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the ancient human fleet had gathered around the Eternal Guardian. Ships that had waited in hidden dimensions for millennia were finally able to reveal themselves. The human fleet now numbered in the thousands, each vessel representing centuries of advancement and preparation. Captain Steele stood on the Guardian's bridge, feeling the weight of his new responsibilities. The ancient consciousness that had merged with his own belonged to the greatest human leaders of the past, explorers, scientists, warriors, and philosophers who had dedicated their lives to ensuring humanity's survival. The galaxy is watching us, Dr. Crane observed, studying the flood of communications from across known space. Every species that ever suffered under the collective wants to know if we're friend or foe. What do you think we should tell them? Marcus asked. The truth, she replied. That humanity never wanted to be conquerors. We just wanted to survive and explore. The collective forced us to become something we never chose to be. Lieutenant Torres reported from her station, Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Alliance. They're requesting a meeting to discuss the new balance of power in the galaxy. Marcus nodded. The hardest part was yet to come. Humanity now possessed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, but with that power came responsibility. They could become the new overlords, ruling through strength as the collective had done, or they could forge a different path. Dr. Crane, what does the historical record say about the original human philosophy before the war? She consulted the ancient databases. Our ancestors believed in cooperation over conquest, in lifting up other species rather than dominating them. They saw the galaxy as a place where different forms of life could coexist and learn from each other. Then that's what we'll do, Marcus decided. We'll show the galaxy that power doesn't have to corrupt. We'll be protectors, not rulers. The Eternal Guardian began broadcasting on all frequencies, its message reaching every corner of known space. This is Captain Marcus Steele of the Terran Defense Fleet, speaking for all of humanity. We return to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. We offer our protection to all peaceful species and our friendship to those who seek it. The age of fear is over. The age of cooperation begins now. Across the galaxy, on worlds that had known only oppression, beings of every shape and size looked up at the stars with wonder. The humans had returned, and with them came the promise of a better future. But in the darkness between stars, other ancient powers stirred. The collective had not been the only threat to galactic peace, and humanity's display of power had awakened things that had slumbered for eons. The real test of human strength was yet to come. Part 5. The New Era. 6 months after the defeat of the collective, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Eternal Guardian now served as humanity's mobile embassy, traveling from system to establish diplomatic relations with the hundreds of species that had been freed from collective rule. Captain Steele walked through the ship's diplomatic quarters, where representatives from a dozen different species were working together to draft the new Galactic Cooperation Treaty. The sight still amazed him. Beings who had been enemies for centuries were now collaborating on a shared future. The Andorian delegation has agreed to share their medical technology, reported Ambassador Chen Wei, humanity's chief diplomat. In exchange, we're providing them with our new energy systems. The Vorthans want to establish joint research stations, and the Kepler Union is asking for our help in rebuilding their war-torn worlds. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with humanity's new role. The ancient human consciousness within him provided wisdom from ages past, but every decision felt like it could shape the galaxy's future for millennia to come. Any word from the Outer Rim? He asked. That's where things get interesting, Chen Wei replied. Our deep space scouts have detected something massive moving in the void beyond the galaxy's edge. Whatever it is, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen. In the Guardian's command center, Dr. Crane and Chief Engineer Brooks were analyzing the latest sensor data. The readings were disturbing. Massive structures moving through the empty space between galaxies, their purpose unknown, but their scale. Terrifying. These aren't ships, Dr. Crane explained to the assembled command staff. They're something else entirely. Artificial constructs the size of small moons, and there are hundreds of them heading in our direction. How long until they reach us? Marcus asked. At their current speed, approximately 1 year, Brooks replied. But Captain, there's something else. These structures are broadcasting a signal. It's not in any known language, but our computers have been working on translation. The main view screen activated, displaying symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Slowly, the alien text resolved into words that everyone could understand. "We are the architects of order." The message read, "We have watched the galaxy's chaos for 10 million years. The defeat of the collective has created an imbalance that threatens the cosmic structure. We come to restore equilibrium." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective, as terrible as they were, had apparently served some purpose in the galaxy's greater design. By removing them, humanity had attracted the attention of something far older and more powerful. "The ancient records mention them," Dr. Crane said quietly, accessing the Guardian's vast databases. "The architects are older than most stars. They believe in maintaining balance through control, and they view any major change as a threat to cosmic order." "What did they do to species that disrupted their version of balance?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. "They corrected them," Dr. Crane replied, "usually by reducing their civilizations to primitive levels and starting over. They see sapient species as children who need guidance." Lieutenant Torres looked up from her station with alarm. "Captain, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Every major species is detecting the same signals, and they're all asking the same question. What do we do when the architects arrive?" Marcus felt the weight of an entire galaxy's expectations pressing down on him. Humanity had defeated the collective and established itself as the galaxy's protector, but the architects represented a challenge unlike anything they had faced. These were beings who had shaped the universe itself, and they viewed the current state of galactic civilization as a problem to be solved. "Gather the fleet," Marcus commanded. "All ships, all crews, all allies. If the architects want to treat us like children, we'll show them what children can do when they work together." The Eternal Guardian became the center of the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. Human vessels, surrounded by allies from hundreds of worlds, all united by the common threat approaching from the void. Former enemies stood side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a challenge that could end civilization itself. "This is it," Marcus said to his crew as they prepared for humanity's greatest test. "Everything we've built, everything we've learned, everything we've become depends on what happens next. The architects think they know what's best for the galaxy, but they've never met a species quite like humanity." In the depths of space, the architect fleet continued its inexorable approach. Ancient beyond measure, powerful beyond imagination, they came to restore their version of order to a galaxy that had learned to dream of freedom. But they had not counted on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to inspire others to be more than they ever thought possible. The galaxy would not go gently into the ordered silence the architects promised. It would fight for its right to choose its own destiny. The final battle for the galaxy's soul was about to begin, and humanity would stand at its center, ready to prove that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from superior firepower, but from the courage to stand up for what is right. The age of the architects was ending. The age of free will was about to begin.